Welcome to Wildland Awareness Training for the Structural Firefighter, Company and Chief Officer. The second video in this four-part series discusses safety considerations and introduces tools that provide for safety on brush and wildland fires. This video describes safety measures and rules of engagement, and introduces tools and actions used for safely engaging in brush and wildland fires. LCES was established in the 90s by a hotshot superintendent named Paul Gleason. His role on several benchmark fires gave rise to the concept that has become the modern foundation for firefighter safety. LCES should be established before engaging a fire, selecting lookouts, establishing communications, choosing escape routes, and identifying safety zones. LCES functions sequentially. It is a self-triggering mechanism where lookouts assess and reassess the fire environment and threats to safety are communicated. This establishes the warning system. Firefighters using pre-identified escape routes to safety zones establishes the reaction procedures. All firefighters should be alert to changes in the fire environment and have the authority to initiate communication. Lookouts should find vantage points to monitor any threat to safety, and they must know the location of the crews working in the area. Lookouts should be capable and knowledgeable firefighters. Communication interoperability with all resources involved must be in place. Information exchange between the IC, lookouts, and firefighters must be periodic, prompt, and clear. Be aware of conditions that will increase escape time, such as steep terrain, smoke, and vegetation. As firefighters work through assignments, fatigue and distance separation will increase the escape time. Supervisors must always be aware of these factors as the fire, location of personnel, and conditions change. Have more than one escape route if at all possible. Safety zones are a safe area large enough to hold crews and apparatus away from flaming front or danger. Your escape route should lead directly to a safety zone. Safety zones are pre-planned locations that can be considered a cold zone. The black or cleaned burned area of a fire is a good example. The original 10 standard fire orders were developed in the 50s after a review of 16 tragedy fires. They are based in part on successful general orders used by the U.S. Armed Forces. The fire orders are broken down sequentially to address three categories: fire behavior, fireline safety, and organizational control. The first three orders deal with fire behavior. All involved in the incident must keep informed on weather conditions. They must know what the fire is doing at all times. And they must base all actions on current as well as expected behavior of the fire. The next three orders address fireline safety. Escape routes and safety zones must be identified and made known to all. Lookouts are to be posted when there is possible danger, and it is important to be alert, keep calm, think clearly, and act decisively. Organizational control is addressed by the next three items. Resources must maintain prompt communication with their own forces, their supervisor, and adjoining crews. Personnel must give clear instructions and ensure they are understood, and control of forces must always be maintained. If the first 9 orders are addressed, then fight fire aggressively, having provided for safety first. Shortly after the fire orders were incorporated, the 18 situations that shout watch out were developed. These watchouts are more specific than the fire orders and describe situations and warning signs that warrant action. These are the 18 watchouts: a fire that is not scouted and sized up, in areas not seen in daylight, safety zones and escape routes that are not identified, unfamiliar with weather influencing fire behavior, resources uninformed on strategy, tactics, and hazards, instructions and assignments that are not clear, no communications with crews or supervisors, construction of fire line or fire attack without a safe anchor point, building fire line or attacking fire downhill with fire below, attempting frontal assault on a fire, if there is unburned fuel between you and the fire, if you cannot see the main fire or are not in contact with someone who can, if you are operating on a hillside where rolling material can ignite fuels below, the weather is getting hotter and drier, wind increases or changes direction, or both, frequent spot fires are occurring, terrain and fuels making escape to safety difficult, and finally, napping on the fire line. The key to safely operating on brush or wildland fires is to gather information so you can build the box around the fire. While contradictory to practices we are used to in structural firefighting, often this means slowing down so you can see the larger picture. Sizing up the area will be more difficult, but is crucial. Ensure LCES is in place before engaging resources. Provide for safety, then attack strategically. LCES is the foundation for engagement, but one of the other two components that are necessary to continue to mitigate risk are anchor points to start from. An anchor point is an advantageous location, usually a barrier to fire spread, from which to start constructing fire line. Using anchor points minimizes the chance of being flanked by fire while fire is being attacked using wet lines or lines that are being constructed. It is important not to chase the head of the fire without securing your line back to your anchor. The second of the two components necessary to mitigating risk are trigger points or tactical decision points to reevaluate your operation. These points are pre-identified or anticipated events. When reached, they initiate a pre-planned response. On structure fires, an example is the 10-minute timer, while on brush or wildland incidents, this may be at longer intervals into an incident. Other triggers may be wind or temperature changes, or fire crossing certain locations. Hitting a trigger point means stop, evaluate, and make a decision, which could mean validating engagement on the fire, holding in place, changing tactics, or disengaging resources and retreating. Most important, do not ignore a trigger point that has been hit. Some additional factors on fires that must be addressed are hazard trees. Post lookouts and flag fall hazard areas when working around trees that are potential threats, and be aware of winds that may amplify threats from these trees. Operating near or under power lines also poses unique hazards, and precautions must be followed. In addition to the hazards we are used to with downed lines, resources must also be aware of smoke that carries into overhead lines and can cause arcs to ground. National Wildland Coordinating Group guidelines advise that direct attack on fire must be abandoned within 100 feet of transmission lines and to always maintain a distance of at least 35 feet from transmission towers. This video discussed safety considerations on brush and wildland fires, including measures for rules of engagement, as well as tools and actions used for safely engaging fire. Continue with part 3 of this 4-part series, which discusses command and control on brush and wildfire incidents.